There's this thing that I saw this morning. One of the creators that I follow, she made a video highlighting a TikToker who had decided that boys being boys, the phrase that we've used for God knows how long, I mean it's as old as the hills, that phrase, it's something we say when boys are rambunctious, when they are rough and tumble, when they start wrestling in the playground, when they run around, when they climb trees, when they, you know, when they used to do all that kind of thing, when there was a gendered kind of society, you know, back in the day when society was very split in the genders, you know, when boys were out and about doing things like being adventurous and climbing the trees and playing in streams and you know, and girls were generally at home, you know, doing chores or whatever, or doing girly things, you know, realistically girly things that, or what society classed as girly things. They weren't out getting themselves in trouble, you know. They weren't wrestling, they weren't climbing trees, they weren't playing about in the mud, they weren't doing all that kind of thing, you know. There was a time in society when we were very gender orientated. We've moved on from that, and so the phrase boys will be boys has pretty much become obsolete. But she's used it as a way to say that boys will be boys is an excuse for men to be abusive and toxic. There's no excuse. I don't care if you're male, female, or they, them. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. There's no excuse for abuse or toxicity in any way, shape or form, and I don't care whether it's mental, emotional, physical, sexual, it doesn't matter what it is. There's no excuse for abuse, and that phrasing is so outdated that you can't really take it seriously anymore. But if she's going to bring it back and start using it against men, then there's something we need to kind of address here, because we can kind of gender reverse this, you know, with this phrase of, you know, we can gender reverse this as a girls will be girls if they're going to get into relationships purely for money, if they're going to turn a relationship into it's all about them, if girls will be girls if the wedding day is all about the bride, because obviously, you know, a marriage has only got one person in it. You know, when you actually consider the thought that you know, a wedding day has only got one person, because the bride is all that matters on that day. So girls will be girls if, you know, the wedding day is all about her. Girls will be girls if they demand that men pay for everything and hand her the money that she herself is fully capable of earning, and probably is earning herself. You know, girls will be girls if they demand that her man be miserable in the relationship they're in just to make her happy. You know, girls will be girls if they insist on wasting her man's money on frivolous shit for the sake of wasting money on frivolous shit. Girls will be girls if they spend 6 hours putting on their makeup and getting ready and being late for everything. You know, so this can be completely gender reversed, and it will never look good for women if we gender reverse this. And if she can gender reverse this and make it out like it's okay for men to abuse women if we gender revert, if boys can be boys, to acknowledge that they can abuse women through that phrase, and we can justify men abusing women through that phrase, then they can justify abuse through girls can be girls. It's just as easy. So be very, very careful with what you listen to and what you take seriously. Because if somebody starts turning around and saying, boys will be boys, girls will be girls, or if anybody starts telling you that it's okay to be abusive, regardless of your gender, regardless of your pronouns, regardless of your relationship status, regardless of how you live, if they tell you it's okay to be abusive in any way, either they themselves are an abuser, in which case they are very dangerous, or you will spot some very serious signs that they are being abused, in which case they will have mental health issues, they will have trust issues, and if they are being physically or sexually abused, they will have some boundary issues as well, and you will notice them. They will flinch when somebody comes too close to them. They will shrink when somebody gets too close to them. They will struggle to be open with anybody, physically open. You know, body language is important. So if somebody is telling you that it's okay to be abusive based off your gender, with phrases like boys will be boys, they are either an abuser themselves, or they are being abused and they are trying to justify that abuse. So, be very, very aware of what people are saying and how they are responding to those phrases. But also be aware that those phrases can be very easily manipulated and gender reversed to make them look really bad. It's so easy to switch things over. So easy to switch it round. Don't be afraid to stand up if you notice those kind of signs. If you notice that you're hearing phrases that are long gone as a way to justify someone's behaviour, or if you're noticing brand new phrases that have been gender reversed or slightly changed, or old phrases that have been manipulated slightly to make it sound like it's a new concept, just to justify somebody else's behaviour, someone's toxic behaviour. Watch out for signs that they are either justifying that behaviour or they themselves are behaving that way. You know, because the confidence of an abuser is so easy to spot. They don't think they can be touched. at all. But the people they're abusing around them, their confidence is so low. The damage they're doing is real. So be aware that if these old phrases are coming back into society to justify people's toxic behaviour, they can be gender reversed just as easily as I have just done. And they will make them seem really toxic. And it is really toxic, the behaviour. But if they're bringing it back to justify behaviour, be aware that if you're listening to this behaviour, it's either the abuser that's doing it or someone's justifying it. Now, I've lived through abuse. Now, all the abuse I lived through was emotional, mental, throughout most of my life. But I have been through sexual abuse. I've seen it. I know it. I understand it. I'm not going to go into it on social media, but I have been there. The nightmares still haunt me. And no amount of therapy will ever stop them. No amount of therapy could ever take away what happened. But I can live with it now. You know? But the damage it's caused is everlasting. And there are so few people in my life that truly know all of that. And recognise when and how to help me when I'm struggling through it, having those moments when it's catching up with me, because it doesn't ever leave. So just be aware of what people say, what you're hearing, whether they're old phrases being revamped or old phrases that are being manipulated and brought back into society under new guises. Because you can gender reverse all of them. All of them. To help other people recognise when something is wrong and deal with it. I'm gonna go. Have a great day, everyone.